Whenever I coach players, I ask them, what is stopping you from ranking up? And the number one response I get is, I'm inconsistent. I have no idea what that means. So today I wanted to ask you and explore the answers of what is consistency, what does it mean to be consistent, and how does one become consistent? Now, I think this idea of inconsistency or consistency gets applied across the board. I see people in my Discord post screenshots of losing games, winning games, and it's this idea that some game good, some game bad. Some days I'm insane, sometimes I'm absolutely trash. I feel like I'm unbeatable. Call me the next ass pass because I'm going pro. And I might just be the worst player ever. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I should just change my sense. This makes it seem that consistency comes from a feeling of a lack of control of our performance rather than a tangible trait. If our performance feels like a swaying seesaw, we are left to operate on two extremes, thus leaving us inconsistent. We need a balance. Great. So if we want to be consistent, we have to find that balance. We must have control over our own performance and get to choose when we want to play like absolute brainiacs or mindless buffoons. So we need to find what creates that balance and what also creates that imbalance. So we know the imbalance comes from a feeling of a lack of control. Maybe the balance comes from feeling in control. So if we want to become consistent, then how do we have control over our own performance? Well, maybe to control our own performance, we just focus on only things we can control. So we cannot control whether we win or lose games, whether we bottom frag or top frag, whether our teammates peak or don't peak. But we can control our approach to these scenarios, to the game we play, the way we interact with the many variables that ranked has. We can consider our enemies into the plans we create, whether they have flashes or an ult or their economic situation. We can read into our teammates and whether or not to include them in our plan, to go with the lurker, to ask them for a flash, to try to communicate an idea to them. I think this can be tricky, although the answer is simple. And I think it becomes tricky when we get lost in our identity or on factors we can't control. An example of identity is anything that's conclusive about yourself. So I'm a good entry. I'm a good player. I'm a bad player. I'm a bad entry. These things tend to be conclusive and thus lead to no improvement. Improvement usually comes from open-minded thinking. So there's two players. Both players entry into a site, both players die on site, and one player concludes, oh, I'm a bad entry, I can never entry. And the other player concludes, I died there, maybe I should have thrown my flash later, maybe I should have asked for a teammate's ability, maybe I can try going to the right side instead of the left side to see if that improves the situation. And the second factor is outside our control is usually getting wrapped up in things outside us. The idea of my teammates suck is a very common example. You can't control your teammates. You think your teammates suck. You will blame your teammates. You will be less cooperative with your teammates consciously or subconsciously because of this. And it will distract you from your own performance. You're no longer focusing on things you can control. You're not thinking about how you can improve the situation. You're thinking about why the situation is hopeless, why there's nothing you can possibly do. And it makes sense because you're focusing on something you can't do anything about. So if you think about a bird flying in the sky, a leaf swaying in the wind, it is no different. You can choose to blame the clouds for a rainy day, blame the bird for flying so high above you, or blame the leaves in the tree for not staying still. But you cannot control these factors the same way you cannot control your teammates. And we have to let it go. Just like a Chef Boyardee can in a commercial. Let it continue on its journey. As always, I wanted to see what you guys thought about this. Comment some factors that are either in your or not in your control. And if you see someone else's comment, let them know what you think. That's all from your coach. In conclusion, consistency is a mirage, and the harder you try to achieve it, the farther the distance becomes. So, the trick to becoming consistent is to trick the dice to land in your favor. To learn the ability to create ideal situations out of unideal scenarios. Tier 3 subs can suggest next week's topic. Thanks for all the support, and I'll see you next Tuesday.